know what I'm going to do today. We're just going to make it up as we go along. Sounds good? Cool. Hello everybody and welcome to Lindsay's Little Library. So today I'm going to start a series that really highlights some of my favorite authors out there. And I'm going to start with some authors that maybe aren't talked about as much on BookTube as I would really hope so, and hopefully get some more people reading them because they are fantastic. So what I'm going to do with these videos is I'm going to go through the books that I've read by them, and hopefully I've read most of them. I'm thinking if I like the author, I've read most of them, but I haven't read all of them because I didn't want to wait any longer to really start the series and start talking about these people. And I also am hoping for some recommendations from you guys as far as what books that I haven't read that I should really start reading, or the next one I should pick up. So for today's author, I'm going to pick my favorite author of all time, which is Jodi Picoult. She is such a talented writer. She is completely an auto buy for me. Anytime she has a new release, whether it's an actual book or she does release quite a few novellas through ebooks, I devour them. I love how she writes. I love kind of watching how she's grown as a writer from her earlier books to her books now. Every book I ever read by her makes me think, makes me question, makes me question my values, question how I approach it. It's amazing. You can tell she totally does her research on whatever subject that she might be writing about. And so it's a really great peace of mind knowing that if you're learning a little bit about maybe a certain subject, it's true. That piece of it isn't fiction. I've had the honor of attending, I think, 3 Jodi Picoult author events. I think every one of them I was able to get book signed. One of them I was very, very pregnant with my youngest son at the time, to the point where she looked at me, looked at my stomach, and was like, you gonna make it through this thing okay? Wasn't sure. But that was super fun. She's a very engaging author to go and meet. She is such a great author to listen to when she reads the excerpt from her next book. She's always has a Q&A session, always asks as many questions as she can during it. She's fantastic. Absolutely adore her. So let's get started. So I'm going to kind of go through. Jodi Picoult has written a ton of books, in which I own most of them. I think I'm missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, 6 of them, something like that. I just haven't, which now that I have those lists, I'm going to start scouring Book Outlet and pick those up because I'd like to have a complete collection. So I think I'll go through the books that I do own by her. I'll talk about the ones that I've read along with the ones that I have not read. I won't give synopsis on each of them because there's like 3 piles here of books that I have. But I will talk about the ones that are my favorites, and I'll give you a little synopsis on those. So let's get started. This, we'll start kind of with her earlier work. Her very first book that she ever wrote was called Songs of a Humpback Whale, which I heard was not good. Therefore, I do not own it because I just don't need to go there. I just love everything she's done already. So it's the only book I probably wouldn't read just because I've really had an overwhelming opinion, or overwhelming thoughts have been shared with me about that book. It's just not what we're used to with Jodi Picoult. So I will start with the 5 books that I own that I have not read by her yet. So the first is Harvesting the Heart, Picture Perfect, The 10th Circle, Change of Heart, and Handle with Care. So those are the 5 I have not read by her that I own. Trying to think if any of the ones that I don't own I haven't read. I think the only one I haven't read is Sing You Home, and I don't think I read Salem Falls, so those are 2 that I haven't read either. So then the books that I own that I've read by her, we have House Rules. This is about a boy with Asperger's syndrome. Very good. Vanishing Acts. This is one of my favorite. This is about a girl named Delilah who was raised by her widow father, adored him, loved him. She now has a young daughter of her own. She's engaged, and she has a dog that she uses in search and rescue operations for missing children. So she knows there's something has happened in her past. She's been having some flashbacks that don't totally make sense to her. And one night a policeman knocks on her door and basically reveals a secret to her that she did not see coming. I'm trying to figure out if I can tell you what it is, and I can't. But it's amazing. Awesome. So this is definitely one of my favorites of hers. Next one I have is Second Glance. This one I listened to on audio, which was my first Jodi Picoult book that I listened to on audio. I don't know if it was the book, but it was, or if it was that I listened to it on audio, but I didn't quite get as much out of it as I have from her other books. So I'm not sure why that was, because the premise of this is fantastic. They're developing an old Indian burial ground. All of these paranormal things start happening. This ghost hunter comes in, and so it's a very interesting premise, which surprises me that I didn't enjoy it as much as I usually do, so I'm not sure what that was about. Then we have Perfect Match. Plain Truth. This takes place in like the Amish setting. There was basically a dead infant found, and got to investigate from there. Mercy was another one of my favorites because this really, really makes you think. This is about, sorry, my cat is like going crazy right now, so if you hear things, it's just her. This is about a couple who the wife is terminally ill, super, super ill, like in immense pain all of the time, and she asks her husband to end her life, and he does, and then he goes on trial for it. So yeah, lots of feels and lots of thinking within this one. That was a really great book. Then we start getting into my signed copies. So I have Lone Wolf, which was signed. This one I did go, this was probably, I think this was the first time I saw Jodi, was when this book was released. And we took a girls trip up and got our book signed. The next book that I've read, and another one of my favorites, is The Storyteller. So this centers around a character named Sage. And she's part of a grief support group because she just lost her mother, I believe. And another member of the group, his name is Joseph, they kind of strike this uncanny friendship. Sage is a baker and owns a bakery, and Joseph starts stopping in there a little bit more regularly. Joseph is a former teacher, I believe, in town, and like everybody loves him. He was fantastic. He's completely adored by the whole entire city. And so they strike up this friendship, and then Joseph unveils a secret to Sage and asks her to do something that has some moral implications, some legal implications. It's very interesting. This has a historical fiction aspect to it. There's a lot of baking that happens in this book. I also have this one signed and went and saw Jodi when she did this one. And she talked about how she literally learned how to bake bread by writing this book. So really, really wonderful story. Love this one. This is probably tied for, like, this one and one other book are like my top 2 Jodi books and part of like my top 10 books of all time. So fantastic book. With that being said, is easily one of my very favorite Jodi books, as well as anytime anybody asks me what my favorite book is, this one usually goes through my mind. So this is Leaving Time. This follows a young girl, and her name is Jenna, and she really misses her mother Alice, and she feels like she's been abandoned. There was a really tragic accident that happened, and she's just really grieving, and so she seeks the help of a couple unlikely characters. So we have Serenity, who's a psychic, and then Virgil, who is an ex-private detective. So she seeks out help from them to help figure out what happened to her mom. wow. Wow. This book also centers around elephants because her mother helped start an elephant sanctuary somewhere out east. But also she spent a lot of time in Africa as well. There's a novella companion that goes to this that's available through your Kindle that you can read. That's fantastic as well. But easily by far, between this one and this one are probably my two favorite Jodi books ever. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. So if you pick up one book out of all of these that I've recommended today, pick up this one. Or maybe this one. Okay, pick up two. Pick up both of them. So then we have the last one and the most recent one that I've read by Jodi is Small Great Things. This centers around a nurse, and her name is Ruth. She has been a nurse at this hospital in the maternity ward for like 20 some years. She knows her shit, basically. She's got it down. And she happens to be African American. One night a couple comes in labor, and they are white supremacists and basically tell her to not touch their son whatsoever. Don't even do it. And she's very blown away by the fact that the hospital like supports their wish and is fine with her not being there. Long story short, she comes to find she ends up being alone with the baby, and something is happening to the baby, and she's been told not to touch him, but if she doesn't touch him, he may die. What does she do? Classic Jodi right here, guys. He puts you in these moral dilemmas that you're like, you know what? I don't even know. I don't even know what I would do. Learned a lot from this book. Oh my gosh, a lot from this book. Very timely book, and a lot of her books seem to be just very timely with what's happening in the world and what's going on. So, wonderful book. This came out earlier this year, I believe. In January, I want to say. Let me double check. Nope, last year. Why do I feel like, maybe it was the end of last year. I don't know. But it's her newest one. And she puts out a book like every other year, I think. So then she teamed up with her daughter, and I went and saw her during this book tour, and learned that her daughter kind of came to her one day and was like, Mom, what happens when I have this really awesome story in my head that I think you should write? And she says, well, then let's write it. I mean, how cool to have a mom like that, right? So there's two books by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. There's two of them. First one is called Between the Lines, and it talks about what if the characters in our fairy tales truly do live within the books, but when the book is closed. So when the book is open, the story is a story, and there's really no changing that. But once the book closes, they kind of have their own life, and they have their own adventures. So this is a book about a character in a book making contact with a little girl. So since she wrote this with her daughter and it's based on fairy tales, you get some really awesome illustrations. Each chapter is told by a different character's viewpoint, and you know that because there's like different colored texts. So some are blue, some are green, some are purple. It's a really, really cool book to go through. Then they wrote a is it a duology, or like the story continues with off the page. It's the companion to Between the Lines. So whatever that means. Maybe it doesn't continue, it's later, whatever. I haven't read this one yet. Read this one, loved it. Still need to get to this one. So again, same kind of premise. We've got different characters, different fonts, and different colors for them, which is one of the, the first time I've really seen that being used. And then there's still some really awesome illustrations in this book too. So you can tell that this was something that she did with her daughter, but still has that same twists and turns to it. Not quite moral dilemmas, but still a very action-packed book, and I do truly enjoy them. So I think that's it. A few books that I have read that I don't own. One book is called 19 Minutes. It is centered around a school shooting. Again, another book that puts you in this moral dilemma of, oh my gosh, what would I do? Or what is right, what is wrong? It's fabulous, fabulous book. Another one is called Keeping Faith, and that centers around a little girl who is, what is it called? It centers around faith and Christianity and the crucifixion of Jesus, and again, another one that really, really makes you think. So,
It doesn't end the tip.
okay, I'll come look in a minute, all right?
Okay.
So there you have it. Those are my Jodi books. Absolutely love her as an author. If you haven't picked up a Jodi Picoult book, you have to do it. Pick one up. Let me know what you think about it. And if you have read her before, let me know down below what's your favorite Jodi book. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe below. Sorry for the crazy kid running around. But we will see you next time. Bye.